And in brief Pakistan, I would love to introduce you to our guest on set. पहले मैं आपको introduce कराना चाहूँगी with Nazish Saad. She's a Paris-based investor in clean tech companies. Welcome to the show, Nazish.
Thank you, Shukriya.
How are you doing? And then we have Nick Padwick, who is soil food web consultant, and he just actually told me that he's the 4th generation farmer, which I thought was such a cool thing to mention over here. Welcome to the show, Nick. How are you doing?
Great, and thank you very much indeed for having us here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, we're going to be discussing soil health today, guys. मैं आपको थोड़ा सा बताना चाह रही हूँ. Soil एक living system होता है. It's full of organisms, nutrients, natural processes, जो कि हमारा food, पानी और हर चीज़ को सही तरीके से रखते हैं. अब वो क्या है? This is what we're going to understand with our lovely guests over here, who are experts in this matter. कि वो किस तरीके से soil को as a holistic measure लेते हैं और किस तरीके से environment sustainable करते हैं, किस तरीके से food production होती है, climate change ने किस तरीके से affect किया है हमें, right? So starting on that, I think we can start with any one of you lovely people. I think let's start with what exactly is regenerative agriculture?
Do you want to go? Do I want?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. So, regen agriculture is it's a wide term, and it covers so many things. We want to try and reduce the amount of chemicals and inputs we use to grow our food. Okay.
Of course, yeah.
Because that will and is destroying not only the soil, but the biodiversity and the habitats that we need so much.
Absolutely.
So farmers, certainly in Europe and UK, are just starting to reduce the amount of inputs we use to produce our food. We are going one step further, and we're taking them out totally. So we feel that these two can't live with the microorganisms and fertilizer. They're not good bedfellows.
They're not good.
They don't like each other. They don't like. There's antagonism there.
Absolutely. So I like how UK has actually managed to make such a big shift as well. You know, and UK and Pakistan both kind of rely on farming.
Absolutely.
As a
critical.
And it's critical, and I love how Pakistan, do you think, will be able to adapt this concept? What do you think?
So I think if you look at it, I mean, there's statistics that show that over 60% of soil in the United Kingdom doesn't have any nutrients. The soil is basically dead. And my interest in bringing Nick here was the issues that Pakistani farmers have been facing for a really long time, like dryness, like lack of rain, or when there's rain, it's flooding, heat, extreme heat. Those are things that are now reaching the UK. And Pakistani farmers have been dealing with this issue here. What also interests me, like I come from the cosmetic side, and for a long time I was working with cosmetic multinationals until I started my own company, or I have my own company. And it's all green. We do only plant hair color, only clay products. And I started discovering everything that is toxic in cosmetics. And from there, moving on, I connected with Nick because I was looking for, everything comes from the soil. If cosmetics, like you said, our bodies, everything comes from the soil. That's and I asked for somebody who would be knowledgeable about soil, and they pointed me to the king of compost. Ta-da!
Wow!
Because he does the soil for King Charles, doesn't he?
How lovely is that? You know, I mean, and I'm really glad. You know, so you know, Nick, being a 4th generation farmer means you've actually seen the climate and the soil deteriorating right in front of your eyes, right? If you were to compare 4 years ago, even like maybe 4 generations ago, how would you see, what do you think is something that stands out the most to you with respect to the kind of loss we're facing?
I think for me, the biggest thing I can remember would be the loss of earthworms. I can remember as a child digging soil with my father, and every single dig you made, loads and loads of earthworms. Now, as farmers, when we look at our soil, if we dig up some soil and the weather conditions are correct and there's enough moisture in the soil, we might find 1 or 2, and we get excited by 1 or 2 earthworms. So we've forgotten what it was like, and that's in part due to the chemicals we're using to produce our foods, and turning the soil over and damaging the structure of our soils.
And so, you know, speaking of soil,
and that's in the UK, but a lot of, like, there's been scandals in the EU and the UK recently because chemicals, pesticides that are forbidden for use in those countries are commercialized by companies that manufacture them there in our countries. These have been very
Imagine, you know, actually we did an amazing segment as well on mango season as well in Pakistan, and the amount of pesticides they were using there. It's not actually conducive to human body to be consuming that, because you develop all kinds of diseases because of that. Right? So end of the day, I think it's very important that, you know, we talk about soil health as well. So what do you mean when you say soil health? Do you mean that it's alive and it's active? Is that what a good soil is?
Absolutely, it has to be. There has to be an ecosystem below our feet, okay?
Yeah.
And there's something called the soil food web.
Yeah, food web.
Where we are looking at all the different trophic layers of soils, and that starts from photosynthesis, producing root exudates into the soil, feeding soil life, where bacteria and fungi are the first trophic layers, and then you have protozoa that then consume bacteria and produce ammonium.
That's the second layer.
Second layer, produce ammonium, which feed plants.
Yes.
They're the fertilizer, the ammonium. And then you have earthworms, you have nematodes.
That's the third layer?
Yeah, and then they start consuming those and produce more nutrients. And then the fungi is a really amazing piece. And this is the bit we've lost most of. Fungi release mild acids into the soils, which then get between the crystalline layers of the sand, silts and clays, and they gather up all the minerals that the plant needs. So there's a symbiosis between the plant and the fungi. They're talking to each other. So the plant is saying, I need some magnesium, manganese, zinc, iron, and then the fungi will go and release those and feed it back to the plant.
How lovely is that, you know, and how it's actually meant to be. And actually these vegetables now speak to us when they're not as juicy anymore. That's when the humans have now started picking up, right?
Well, absolutely.
They say, if you think about it that way, it's like, you know, a tomato would be healthier. It would have I think they've done some research as well. Before you guys came, I was reading that a healthy soil influences crop yield in such a great extent that some tomatoes have a higher level of vitamin C, zinc, and they have a lot better system.
Okay, so you're touching a little bit on a pet subject of mine, which is monoculture.
Yeah, monoculture, yeah. In fact, can you explain it to audience what monoculture is? We understand.
So monoculture is something that we've created because we are a society that is driven by efficiency. So it's easier for you to do one single plant over hectares and hectares of land.
Yeah, repeatedly.
Over and over every year the same thing, because you don't have to work at it. And what that does is, if you do the same thing, it's like अगर आप बच्चे को ABC सिखाएं और उसके बाद 1 2 3 नहीं सिखाएं, बस वो ABC, so at some time it's saturated and it's done.
Of course.
But you have to teach him how to make words, and if you're not doing that, if you're not evolving, if you're not changing things, then that's called monoculture. And so I think today there's like 8 plants in the world that represent 80% of our agriculture, where before there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So uske saath, there's a consequence of it, is that some insects, some birds, some animals are interested in you know, they live with these plants. We live in an ecosystem, and
and everything is so connected. I see where you're coming from.
Connection,
I see where you're coming from, and I see how driven you are and passionate you are about this as well.
Don't get me started.
No, absolutely. हम बात कर रहे हैं Beat Pakistan के segment के अंदर about soil health, right? And we have Nick Padwick and Nazish Saad, जो कि हमसे इतने expert तरीके से अच्छी knowledge हमसे share कर रहे हैं. So, you know, Nick, if I had to ask you, are there some green, you know, farming practices that we are doing, and how do they affect or address climate change? You know, would a healthy soil act like a sponge? Like in Pakistan, we have droughts, and then we have lots of water, and then we don't know where we're basically living in two extremes, right? So how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. Well, we spoke earlier about having all those microbes in the soil, and that forms an amazing structure like your sponge.
Yes.
So we are getting extreme weathers in the UK now.
Yes.
And we need to hold on to as much moisture as we possibly can, and also have our soils filter a lot of rain when it does come, because that's one thing I've seen throughout my career is these weather events are getting more extreme.
They are.
More extreme.
They are.
So your analogy of a sponge for the soil is absolutely perfect. That's exactly what it is.
And the earthworms being engineers, let's point that out.
Well, they are. If you have them,
this is how I wrote my notes.
if you have earthworms, then absolutely they are the engineers. So if you get the earthworms and the microbes, you have an amazing soil ecosystem, which will regulate temperature, sort out nutrients for your plants, and just make a better ecosystem to grow your food.
And we need that, and we need that. So, you know, what would you say, you know, is one of the biggest challenge that, you know, we're facing when we're shifting from traditional agriculture to soil health focused agriculture?
You want to answer that, Nick? I think you're probably, as a farmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think as people are now starting to see, and this is the mindset piece, as people are starting to see and ask questions about their food and about the climate, they're starting to refocus and get more engaged in soils, and they're starting to use composts a lot more to help with the microbes putting microbes back into the soil, and they're seeing a massive change in the food that they're producing by doing these practices, and that can be done from someone in their garden.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to.
To large-scale agriculture.
So, you know, Nick, now that you said it, you know, in some remote areas, in northern areas of Pakistan, you know, they have these really old practices in which they make compost themselves over there.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because there's no one that would actually know unless you're actually traveling there, and if you're sitting with them and if you see how they do it, and that is something I do quite often. And we've had people on the show have spoken about it as well. So if someone has to do this in their garden, or someone has to make compost and actually figure things out, we got this question as well before you guys came, that will I be able to do this in my garden if I want to? So you know, what advice can you give our audience? How would you guide them?
Yeah, well, absolutely, you can definitely do this in your garden, whatever scale. It can be really small scale in a small little bucket or a vessel, or it could be very, very large scale. We make hundreds of tons of compost, but you can make a small little bucket of compost. It can be done at any point by using food scraps and stuff you find around your allotment or your gardens, woods which have lots of fungi on them, and then you have your greens, and then you have your high nitrogen to start making this amazing compost to go back onto your soils.
And if you have questions, you can, I mean, if the audience has questions, you know, if you go on trashit.com's website, they have all the explanations. It's very detailed, and you can even call them and they'll give you all the advice.
How lovely is that? And in fact, you know, why don't you tell us about this amazing Soil Health Week we're having, Nazish? And it started on the 22nd of September, and it's happening till the 27th, and I believe on Saturday, there is a specific one that's open to public. Tell us about it. Tell our audience about it.
So this is, like, for me, this is Pakistan's, you know, a success story that could only happen in Pakistan. Like, it started out with my meeting Nick and working with him for the past year, and then saying, oh, you should really come to Pakistan. It was supposed to be a small event with Trash It people. And then people heard about it, and yesterday we had an event at Karachi University with 200 students. Lots of women, made me very happy.
Lovely.
I like that. And the delicious samosas. And then we went to Tawfiq Pasha's farm. So tonight we have an event with Habib University. Then we're going to an agricultural university.
Oh, lovely. So you're spreading the message, and you're here at dawn.
Yes, and we're
here at dawn on live television. Love that.
Dawn at dawn. And on the 27th, it's the only publicly open event, and it's for amateur gardeners and people who want to do it at home. It's at the garden center. You can approach Trash It for the tickets.
On the website too,
On the website too as well. And Nick will be explaining how to make compost at home, because there's compost and then there's compost. So you can pretty much throw your food scraps and everything and nothing will happen. Because it's like your tomatoes you were talking about. Tomato is a tomato, but one tastes different and has nutrients, and one is just a red ball with water.
हम discussion कर रहे हैं Breathe Pakistan के अंदर with Padwick and Nazish Saad about soil health. और you know, हम लोगों ने काफ़ी चीज़ें डिस्कस की. Regenerative agriculture क्या होता है, हम अपने soil को ज़्यादा resilient कैसे बना सकते हैं. अगर पाकिस्तान droughts face कर रहा है, या climate shocks face कर रहा है, या floods face कर रहा है, तो पाकिस्तान एक बाहर जगह नहीं है दुनिया में जो ये face कर रही है. UK में भी ये चीज़ें हो रही हैं, बट हम किस तरीके से समझ रहे हैं, किस तरीके से ये चेंजेस ला रहे हैं, आज हम यही समझेंगे. इनफैक्ट ये जो सॉइल हेल्थ वीक भी हो रहा है 22 और से 27 सितंबर के बीच में, इसमें हम एक बहुत नई चीज़ सीखने वाले हैं निक से. निक हमें बता रहे थे कि अब हम सॉइल हेल्थ मेजर कर सकते हैं. सो निक, इज देयर एनी साइंटिफिक वे फॉर फार्मर्स टू एक्चुअली नाउ मेजर the soil health of their field.
Yeah, absolutely, there is.
Wow.
And we're starting to do it in
Amazing.
Pakistan.
How lovely.
Really exciting this week because of Soil Health Week. So, Trash It.
Yes.
We are teaching them how to take soil and compost samples and pop them under a microscope and then count what they see. So we can then gauge what life you have in your soils. So, and that can be done by farmers. They just need a microscope and some tuition, which Trash It can help with.
Yeah.
And then they can understand where they've started, how, if they've got no life in their soils, and how they can then follow that journey where they're actually inputting compost that's got life in it and inoculating the soils and seeing this whole ecosystem grow underneath their feet.
How lovely. And would we be able to maintain this if we don't have enough water or if we're having climate conditions? Will it still be affected?
Yes, absolutely.
It will be,
We damage it if we disturb the soil. So if we put in the microbes and we give them this amazing home, they live there and they multiply beautifully. If we then disturb the soil or put on some harmful chemicals, then they disappear and we've got to start the whole process again.
Interesting that you said that, because I think farmers over here, generally I think the population in Pakistan is quite impatient as well, right? So when you think about, like, they need the produce immediately and they need a high yielding crop immediately.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that?
Well, what we do in the UK is we're trying to show and guide other farmers to do these practices. And just like farmers are farmers all around the world.
All around the world.
It's all about yield and output, isn't it? But what we tend to do is to change their mindset. We take, if they have 5 fields, we take 1 field, we show them what they can do with 1 field while they're still doing the old practices on the other fields, and they can see the difference and they can then start gradually making that change.
That's amazing. That's a brilliant idea, actually. And for Pakistan, I think that's ideal. So they have 1 field to experiment with, and then they have 3 fields that are still giving them the crops that they need for the finances.
And farmers are people who need to see with their eyes.
Absolutely.
And once they see with their eyes and they touch with their fingers, you can see the difference.
And the 3 fields keep them busy, right? Not interfere with the 4th one. Because otherwise they would keep tweaking it, right? That's what one would think. So Nazish, coming to the business side of this as well, right? How do you think, we're moving towards the fields of sustainability, towards greener investments? Do you think that we're moving towards it?
I think we have to.
Yes.
But like the field of investment is generally feel very masculine and very tech, and less green, but more green tech than green. But I think we are going to have to move, and I'm hoping that as more women join this sector, we will have
more nurturers and more
nurture and more caring and taking a view of things which is not isolated.
Absolutely.
Seeing our entire society, and by the larger society I mean everything living, as a whole, and we understand that we have to invest in it.
Absolutely.
You don't,
for our own well-being and for our future generations. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak to both of you, and I think I resonated with this segment so well as well. I would love it, Nick, if you could perhaps give us a last ending message from what you understand about being in Pakistan, what you think would really help our audience, why people should come to the Soil Week.
Well, if they get involved in Soil Week, they will learn so much that they can take home and do at their own homestead and their farms. And it's all, for me, it's all about mindset, microbes and minerals.
Nice. M cubed. We got it. We've picked up some nice slang from this, right? All right, it's an absolute pleasure to have you guys on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.